You hear that? That's Cairo. The place, like I said, where nothing is allowed and everything is allowed. The first time I came here last year, and I'd been invited for the Cairo International Film Festival, I was confronted with a cultural shock. In the course of one day, I found myself getting scammed, and I visited the pyramids where, instead of having the fun time that people associate, that Westerners associate with visiting the pyramids and the Sphinx, I could not escape the visions of violence that were surrounding the place. I remember there was an incident where I was with a group of people who were also invited to the festival, and we were somehow, I wouldn't say coerced, but we were encouraged to experience a trip around the pyramids on camelback. And I immediately knew that it would not be my thing, because I'm an animal rights activist and I'm a vegetarian and I'm totally against abuse of animals. But somehow, once I got on the camel's back, I started feeling like Lawrence of Arabia, and everything was a lot of fun. But then I noticed that one of the camels was foaming at the mouth. And as we went on, I would see them getting beaten brutally, and I could tell that there was a lot of empathy that they were sharing amongst themselves, and that they were all sort of supporting each other subtly, not to make their shows of affection too noticeable to their so-called owners. And as I was witnessing this brutality, I didn't really know who to get angry but the tourists themselves, who sat on the camels' backs and took the pictures of themselves posing as if they were some sort of colonial conquerors of some sort of strange land. Photos that they would then publish on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram for likes and instant gratification, the type of instant gratification that is awful compared to the type of instant gratification that is very often legal, which I will not get into right now. I was getting angry at them because I couldn't get angry at the people who were beating them, because as I looked at them I could tell that they were just poor and that they were doing what they had to do. And I somehow imagined, and I probably was quite right in thinking, that not only were they poor, but they were also probably getting beaten harder than they were beating the camels. And so as I sat on the camel's back, I remember crying, being on the verge of tears, not exactly crying. But when I did return from this terrible tour and having to smile and just talk with the people as if I had been impacted, but not as much as they probably thought, I got back home and I had bought a bottle of vodka in Istanbul, and I just chugged and I just started crying, and I realized that I hadn't cried in a long time, so tears were coming out, and I was just completely shocked and hurt. And to me, that was one of the most powerful moments that I had experienced. And it was for that reason that, despite the fact that it could come across as a shocking experience, I decided that I would come back eventually. And if I had been invited to the same festival a year later, I would have accepted that invitation gladly, because I don't run away from things that I'm confronted with. I want to be shocked, and it's only when you experience the shocks that you understand them as necessary, important events that you have to go through in order to evolve. And evolution is really part of our existence. In fact, it complements existence, because an existence that doesn't revolve is just stillborn. A friend of mine who's a poet and who I actually shot a video with in Prague for one of my long takes said one thing to me And one of the first occasions when I got to hang out with him and meet him, that has stayed with me ever since, and it's one of my favorite quotes of his. He said to me, "The heart breaks to get bigger." And that day in Cairo, my heart broke so badly that not only did my heart get bigger, but also my brain. It was as if someone had slapped me silly into existence. It made me realize that there's some things in life that are just worth going through, and that life is just a journey. And the people that we meet and we never see again, the people that are so important in our lives and then they just suddenly disappear, the places that we visit and suddenly disappear, all of this one day could suddenly stop to exist.